The Intergalactic Adoption Center was the biggest building Taman had ever seen. It stretched across 3 levels of the orbital station, with glass walls that showed the stars outside. Hundreds of creatures from different planets lived inside, waiting for someone to take them home. Some were small and fluffy. Others were large with too many legs. Some glowed in the dark. Others could change colors like a rainbow. Taman walked slowly through the main hall. His older sister Hana was already at the front section, looking at the popular pets. She wanted something impressive, something her new friends at school would think was cool. Their family had moved to this space station 2 months ago, when their parents got important jobs. Everything was still new and strange. The building was noisy. Creatures chirped and howled and made sounds Taman had never heard before. Families walked around with staff members who explained which animals were safe and which ones needed special care. Children pressed their faces against the glass containers, pointing and laughing, but Taman was not interested in the front area. Something pulled him toward the back of the building, where the lights were dimmer and fewer people went. He walked past the rows of bright, energetic creatures until he reached the last corridor. This section was darker. The containers here looked older and less clean. A sign on the wall said, "Special cases. Ask staff for details." In the very last corner, behind a scratched glass wall, Taman saw it. The creature was small, about the size of a cat, but shaped like nothing he had seen on Earth or in any book. It had 4 legs and a long tail, with a body that looked like a mix between a lizard and a bird. Its scales were dull gray and brown, covered in dirt and what looked like old food. 2 small wings pressed flat against its back, useless and fragile. The creature's head was tucked down, hiding its face. But what made Taman stop was how scared it looked. The creature was shaking, pressed into the farthest corner of its small space, trying to make itself invisible. Its breathing was fast and shallow. Taman knelt down in front of the glass. The creature did not move. A small panel next to the container showed basic information. Species unknown. Age unknown. Origin, unclaimed salvage from deep space. Status, available for adoption, 47 days. Special notes, extremely timid. Multiple rejection incidents, scheduled for termination in 3 days if not claimed termination. The word made Taman's stomach hurt. They were going to kill this creature just because no one wanted it. He looked closer at the animal. Despite the dirt and fear, something about it seemed almost magical. Its scales under the grime had tiny patterns that might have been beautiful once. Its eyes, when it briefly glanced up at him, were large and bright purple, filled with an intelligence that seemed too deep for a simple animal. "Hey there," Taman said softly through the glass. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The creature flinched at his voice but did not try to hide further. Maybe it was too tired. Maybe it had given up hope. Taman sat down on the floor, completely getting comfortable. He did not care if people thought he looked silly. "I know you're scared," he continued in Korean, his native language feeling more natural for saying kind things. "This place is scary, isn't it? All the noise and strangers." The creature's breathing slowed just a little, its purple eyes fixed on Taman with an intensity that made him shiver. It was looking at him, really looking at him, like it was trying to understand who he was. "Taman, there you are!" Hana's voice echoed down the corridor. She walked toward him with quick steps, then stopped when she saw where he was. "What are you doing back here?" "This is where they keep the weird ones." "Look at this one," Taman said, not taking his eyes off the creature. "It's so scared." Hana glanced at the container and wrinkled her nose. "It's dirty, and it looks sick. Come on, there are way better ones up front. I found this amazing crystal bird that sings in 3 different languages." "I think something's wrong with it," Taman said. "Look, it has something on its neck." Hana leaned closer, curious to spite herself. Underneath the matted fur-like covering around the creature's neck, something reflected the light. It looked metallic but old, very old. "Probably just a collar from wherever it came from," Hana said. "Maybe its owners abandoned it." "That's sad, but Taman, this thing is scheduled for termination. That means it has problems. The station doesn't kill healthy animals." "That's exactly why I want to help it," Taman said firmly. Before Hana could argue more, a tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms approached them. It was a Threxian, one of the common species that worked on the station. Its name tag said, "Vulm, Senior Coordinator." "Children," Vulm said in the universal language that the station translated through their ear devices. This section is not for browsing. These are animals with behavioral issues. What's wrong with this one? Taman asked, standing up but staying close to the glass. Volm looked at the creature with obvious disinterest. That one? It's been here for months. Found on an abandoned ship in the Outer Rim. It won't eat properly, won't interact with other animals, and gets terrified when anyone tries to handle it. We've had 23 different species try to adopt it. All of them brought it back within days. It's simply defective. Defective? Taman felt anger rise in his chest. It's not a machine. It's alive and scared. Volm's expression did not change. The Threxian had probably heard this kind of argument 1,000 times. Life on a station is expensive. We cannot keep animals indefinitely when they cannot adapt. It's a kindness, really, to end its suffering rather than let it waste away in fear. Can I try to interact with it? Taman asked suddenly. Volm tilted his large head, considering. You want to interact with that creature? Why? Because no one else will, Taman said simply. Hana touched his arm. Taman, are you sure? It might bite or scratch you. But Volm was already pulling out a datapad, his forearms moving with practiced efficiency. I suppose there's no harm. It's never shown aggression, only fear. But you'll need a parent's signature on a waiver. Station policy. I'll get my mom, Hana said quickly. She's in the office section filling out papers. Wait here. She ran off before Taman could respond. Volm opened the glass container slightly. Enough for Taman to reach inside, but not enough for the creature to escape. Keep your movements slow. Do not grab it. If it becomes distressed, remove your hand immediately. Taman nodded. His heart was beating fast. He slowly put his hand through the opening, palm down, not reaching toward the creature but just offering his presence. The creature pressed harder against the wall, making a small chirping sound of fear. It's okay, Taman whispered. I'm not going to grab you. I promise. He kept his hand perfectly still. Seconds passed. Then minutes. His arm started to hurt from the awkward angle, but he did not move. He just breathed slowly and kept his eyes soft, not staring directly at the creature but watching it gently. Finally, after what felt like forever, the creature moved. Just an inch forward. Then another. Its purple eyes never left Taman's face, searching for any sign of danger. When it was close enough, Taman could see more details. The creature had tiny scars on its scales. Its wings were torn in places, old injuries that had healed badly. This animal had suffered, and for a long time. Very slowly, the creature reached out its neck. The metallic thing around it became more visible. It was not a simple collar. Symbols covered it, carved or printed into the metal in patterns that seemed to glow faintly. They looked like writing, but unlike any language Taman had learned in school. The creature's nose touched Taman's fingers. Its skin was warm and dry. It sniffed carefully, then made a sound different from before, softer, almost questioning. That's it, Taman breathed. See? I'm safe. For just a moment, the creature's scales seemed to catch the light differently, and Taman could see what they might have looked like when healthy. Not gray and brown, but iridescent blue and silver like starlight made solid. Fascinating, Volm muttered behind him. It's never approached anyone before. Taman very gently moved his hand to brush some of the dirt away from the collar. The symbols became clearer, and something about them made his mind tingle. Like they were important, like they meant something huge that everyone had forgotten. The creature closed its eyes, leaning into his touch just slightly, and Taman made a decision. He was going to save this creature, whatever it took. Taman's mother Mireille arrived at the adoption center with a worried expression. Hana had explained the situation quickly, and while Mireille was not happy about it, she signed the waiver. She had learned that sometimes her son got ideas in his head that would not leave until he tried them. Just for interaction, Mireille warned, not adoption. We don't know anything about this creature. I understand, Taman said, but his mind was already planning ahead. Over the next 3 days, Taman visited the adoption center every day after school. Volm seemed amused by his persistence and let him spend time in a small room with the creature. The first day, the animal just hid in the corner. The second day, it ate a little bit of food while Taman sat quietly nearby. By the third day, it was letting him touch its scales and clean away some of the dirt. Taman brought his school tablet with him. He had taken hundreds of pictures of the collar and the strange symbols. Every night, he ran them through translation programs and searched databases. His father, Do-hyun, who worked with alien artifacts sometimes, had given him access to research libraries that most kids could not use. Hana helped too, even though she teased him about spending all his time with the sad lizard. She was good with computers and set up programs to search faster. She also helped him clean the creature's scales with special wipes from the station's medical center. You know, Hana said on the third day, carefully working on the creature's wings. It's actually kind of pretty under all this mess. Look, these scales are turning blue. She was right. As they cleaned, the creature's true colors emerged. Its scales were deep blue mixed with silver, and they caught light in ways that seemed impossible. The patterns formed swirls and lines that looked almost decorative, but Taemin suspected they meant something. The creature, which Taemin had started calling Biol, the Korean word for star, was also changing in behavior. It still got scared of loud noises and sudden movements, but with Taemin and Hana, it was calm. It even started making little chirping sounds that seemed happy. Biol is a good name, Hana admitted, better than calling it the creature all the time. On the fourth day, Taemin's tablet made a sound during lunch at school. His friend Jihoon, who sat next to him in class, looked over. "What's that?" Jihoon asked, seeing the complex symbols on the screen. "A project I'm working on," Taemin said, not wanting to explain everything. Jihoon was nice but talked a lot, and soon everyone would know. But the notification was important. His search program had found a match in an old archive. Taemin's hand shook as he opened the file. The symbols were written in progenitor script. Taemin almost dropped his tablet. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the progenitors, at least in stories. They were the ancient ones, the first civilization to travel between stars. The ones who had disappeared millions of years ago. They had left behind ruins and artifacts, but very little that could be understood. Their language had never been fully translated because there were not enough samples to study. But somehow, his tablet's program had found a partial dictionary, probably pieced together from fragments by researchers over centuries. The translation was not perfect, but it was enough. Taemin read the words on Biol's collar over and over, his heart pounding. Royal Guardian Kesava of the Eternal Fleet. Bonded Protector. Duty unto death. Do not separate from charge. Guardian. Protector. Charge. The words rearranged everything Taemin thought he knew. Biol was not just an animal. Biol was someone's guardian. A protector who had been separated from whoever they were supposed to protect. No wonder Biol was so scared and sad. The creature had lost their purpose, lost their person, and no one had understood. Taemin spent the rest of the school day distracted, barely hearing his teachers. When the final bell rang, he grabbed his tablet and ran to the adoption center faster than he had ever run before. Volm looked up from his desk when Taemin burst through the door. "Young human, you're here early today." "I need to show you something," Taemin said, breathing hard. "About Biol, about the creature in the back. The one you've been visiting? What about it?" Taemin showed him the tablet with the translation. "The collar isn't just decoration. It's a name and a title. This creature is a progenitor guardian. Do you know what that means?" Volm's forearms stopped moving. His blue face became very still. "Progenitor? That's impossible. All progenitor artifacts are in museums or research facilities. They don't just show up in abandoned ships." "But look at the translation," Taemin insisted. "The symbols match. This is real." Volm took the tablet and read carefully. His large eyes narrowed. "Even if this translation is accurate, it changes nothing. Progenitor guardians are legends, stories. There's no proof they actually existed." "Biol is the proof." Taemin's voice was getting louder. "This explains everything. Guardians were bonded to specific people. Biol lost their person and has been alone for who knows how long. That's why they're so sad." "It's still just an animal," Volm said, but he sounded less certain now. "And its termination is scheduled for tomorrow morning. Station regulations are clear about animals that cannot be adopted." The words hit Taemin like cold water. Tomorrow morning. He had been so focused on the translation that he forgot the deadline. "You can't kill Biol," Taemin said desperately. "Not now. This is important. This is history." Volm handed back the tablet. "I don't make the rules, young human. If you want to save the creature, you need to adopt it yourself. Otherwise, there's nothing I can do. How much does adoption cost?" Volm checked his computer. "For that creature? Since it's scheduled for termination and has been rejected so many times, the fee is minimal. 300 credits. 300 credits. Taemin had been saving his allowance for 2 years, plus birthday money from relatives. He had 347 credits in his account. He was saving for a new gaming system, something he had wanted forever. But the choice was easy. "I'll buy Biol," Taman said. "Right now." Volm's eyes widened. "You're serious? Does your family know about this?" "I'll tell them," Taman said, which was not exactly a lie. He would tell them after he bought Biol and brought them home. His parents might be angry, but they would not make him return Biol to be killed. They were not that cruel. "This is highly irregular," Volm muttered, but he was already pulling up adoption forms. "You're a minor. I need a parent's signature," Taman thought fast. "My mom signed the waiver for interaction." "Doesn't that count?" "Not for adoption." "Then call her, please. Tell her it's an emergency." Volm looked at Taman's desperate face and sighed. He was not a cruel being, just tired and following rules. He made a call on his communication device. Mirai arrived 20 minutes later, looking confused and worried. "Taman, what's wrong?" The center said there was an emergency. Taman showed her everything. The translation, the collar, the meaning of the symbols. He talked fast, explaining about progenitor guardians and how important this was and how Biol was scheduled to die tomorrow if no one saved them. Mirai listened, her expression unreadable. When Taman finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "You want to use your savings to buy this creature," she finally said. "Yes." "And you understand that this is a huge responsibility? That we don't know what this creature eats or needs or how long it will live?" "I'll figure it out," Taman promised. "I'll do all the work. You won't have to do anything." Mirai looked at Volm. "Is this translation legitimate?" Volm shifted uncomfortably. "The symbols do match progenitor script according to his research. Whether that makes the creature what he claims, I cannot say. Progenitor technology is beyond my expertise." Mirai turned back to Taman. She saw the determination in his eyes. The same determination he had when he decided to learn guitar or when he practiced taekwondo until he got every move right. Her son was stubborn, but he was also kind and responsible. "If I sign this," Mirai said slowly, "your father and I will need to discuss rules. The creature stays in your room. You are responsible for all care, and if it becomes dangerous or destructive, we will need to return it." "Understood?" "Understood." Taman could barely contain his excitement. Mirai signed the forms. Taman transferred his credits. And just like that, Biol belonged to him. When Volm brought Biol out in a transport carrier, the creature was shaking again, scared of the change. But when Taman opened the carrier door and spoke softly, Biol calmed down. Those purple eyes looked at him with something that might have been trust. As they walked to their family's quarters, Taman could feel Biol's heartbeat through the carrier, fast but steady. He had no idea what he was getting into, but he knew one thing for certain. He had just changed both their lives forever. Taman's father, Do-hyun, was already home when they arrived with Biol. He stood in the living area of their quarters with his arms crossed, and Taman knew his mother had called ahead to warn him. "So," Do-hyun said calmly, "you bought an alien creature with your savings without asking us first." "I'm sorry," Taman said, meaning it. "But they were going to kill Biol tomorrow. I couldn't let that happen." Do-hyun's expression softened slightly. He knelt down to look at the carrier where Biol was hiding. "Your mother told me about the progenitor symbols." "May I see?" Taman carefully opened the carrier. Biol peeked out nervously but did not run. Do-hyun examined the collar with professional interest. He worked with ancient artifacts sometimes, so he knew how to look at things carefully without touching them too much. "Remarkable," Do-hyun murmured. "If this is authentic progenitor work, it belongs in a research facility. Do you understand how rare this is?" "Biol isn't an artifact," Taman said firmly. "They're alive. They have feelings." "I know," Do-hyun said gently. "But son, we don't know anything about caring for this creature. What if it needs special food we can't provide? What if it gets sick?" "Then we'll figure it out," Taman said. Together, Mirai put her hand on Do-hyun's shoulder. "We already agreed to try. 1-month trial period. If it doesn't work, we'll find a proper research facility that can care for it. Not the adoption center." Do-hyun nodded slowly. 1 month. But Taman, this creature stays in your room. You clean up after it. You feed it. You're responsible. Understood?" "Understood," Taman agreed quickly. Hana, who had been watching from the hallway, spoke up. "I'll help too. Biol is kind of growing on me." That first night was difficult. Taman set up a comfortable area in the corner of his room with blankets and pillows. He put out water, and different types of food he had researched might work for reptile-like creatures. But Biol just hid under Taman's bed, too scared to eat or drink. Taman lay on his bed, reaching his hand down to the floor. "It's okay, Biol, this is your home now. You're safe here." He fell asleep like that, hand hanging down, hoping Biol would understand they were safe. When Taman woke up in the middle of the night, something had changed. His room was filled with soft blue light. He sat up quickly, confused and a little scared. The light was coming from Biol. The creature sat in the middle of the room, and every scale on their body glowed with gentle bioluminescence. The patterns on their scales formed swirls and lines that moved like waves. But most amazing was the collar. The symbols were glowing brightly, pulsing with a rhythm like a heartbeat. Biol's purple eyes were open and clear, staring at Taman with an intensity that made him shiver. The creature looked different. Bigger somehow, though maybe that was just the light. More alert, more present. "Biol?" Taman whispered. "Are you okay?" Biol took a step forward, then another. They moved with more confidence than Taman had ever seen. When Biol reached the bed, they placed their front paws on the edge and looked directly into Taman's eyes. And then something impossible happened. Taman felt something in his mind. Not words exactly, but feelings and images and understanding. He felt Biol's loneliness, centuries of it, drifting through space in stasis, waking up confused and scared in the adoption center. He felt the pain of being rejected over and over, of being called defective and unwanted, but he also felt something new. Recognition, purpose, hope. Images flashed through his mind, not memories from Earth, but from somewhere else. He saw great ships made of crystal flying between stars. He saw beings of light working together, building, creating, protecting. He saw guardians like Biol, hundreds of them bonded to their chosen people, their charges, protecting them with absolute loyalty. He understood suddenly what the bond meant. Progenitor guardians did not just protect anyone. They chose someone compatible, someone with the qualities the progenitors valued: courage, kindness, wisdom, the ability to see worth in what others overlooked. Biol had been waiting, not just in the adoption center, but for years, maybe centuries, in some kind of hibernation, waiting for someone worthy of the bond, someone who would see past fear and dirt and rejection to recognize what they truly were. The glowing faded slowly, and Biol made a sound like a purr mixed with a chirp. The creature climbed onto the bed and curled up next to Taman, their scales warm against his side. Taman put his hand on Biol's head, scratching gently. "I understand now," he whispered. "You chose me too, didn't you?" Biol's purring sound grew louder, and Taman took that as a yes. From that night forward, everything changed. Biol began growing at an incredible rate. Within a week, they were the size of a large dog. Their scales became more brilliant, shifting between blue and silver depending on the light. Their wings, which had been torn and useless, started healing and growing stronger. Their intelligence became obvious to everyone in the family. Biol understood commands in Korean, English, and even the station's universal language. They followed Taman everywhere he was allowed to go. They could sense his emotions. If Taman was sad, Biol would nuzzle him gently. If he was excited, Biol would make happy chirping sounds and prance around. But the most amazing discovery came during a difficult moment at school. Taman was in the common area when 3 older students started bothering him. They were from a warrior species called the Krell, big and mean, and they did not like humans much. They pushed Taman against a wall and said mean things about Earth being a weak planet. Taman was scared but tried not to show it. "Leave me alone," he said firmly. "Or what?" the biggest Krell said, leaning close. "You'll cry for your mommy?" Before the situation could get worse, Biol appeared. No one had seen Biol enter the common area. The creature had somehow sensed Taman's fear and found a way to reach him. Biol stepped between Taman and the Krell students, and something incredible happened. A shimmer appeared in the air around Taman. It looked like heat waves, but more solid, more real. The shimmer formed a dome that surrounded both Taman and Biol, and when the lead Krell tried to push through it, his hand bounced off like hitting a wall. "What is that?" the Krell shouted, backing away. Biol's scales glowed with a warning light, and a low sound came from their throat, something between a growl and a hum. It was not aggressive, but it was clear. Back away. Do not threaten my charge. The Krell students ran and the shimmer faded. Biol turned to Taman and nuzzled him gently, checking if he was hurt. You can make shields? Taman said in wonder, touching Biol's scales. You protected me. That incident got reported to station security. Within hours, Commander Young-Soo showed up at their family quarters with 3 security officers. Young-Soo was a stern Korean man in his 50s who had worked station security for 20 years. He did not smile much, and his voice was always serious. Taman felt nervous when the commander walked into their living area. I need to see this creature, Young-Soo said without introduction. Do-hyun had already pulled up all their documentation about Biol, ready to defend their right to keep the guardian. We have legal adoption papers. The creature has shown no aggression. The creature manifested a defensive shield around your son, Young-Soo said flatly. That makes it a potential weapon. Station regulations require registration and monitoring of all beings capable of energy projection. Biol was protecting Taman from bullies, Hana said angrily. Those Krell students have been reported before. Why aren't you worried about them? Young-Soo's expression did not change. I am worried about everything that threatens station safety. That's my job. Biol walked into the room having heard unfamiliar voices. They immediately moved to Taman's side, watchful but not hostile. Young-Soo studied the Guardian carefully. Progenitor Guardian, Young-Soo said quietly, reading from his datapad. I've seen references to these in historical texts. They were supposed to be myth. They're real, Taman said, and Biol isn't dangerous. The shield was just protection. It didn't hurt anyone. Young-Soo was quiet for a long moment. Here's the situation. I cannot allow an unknown entity with defensive capabilities to roam the station without oversight. But I also recognize that separating bonded guardians from their charges can be catastrophic. Historical records suggest that guardians who lose their bond can destabilize and cause significant damage. So what do you want? Mirai asked carefully. Registration, monthly check-ins with station security, behavioral monitoring, and... Young-Soo looked directly at Taman. Your son needs to learn control. If this creature responds to his emotions, he needs to manage those emotions responsibly. Fear, anger, panic. These cannot trigger defensive responses in populated areas. I can do that, Taman said quickly. I promise. You'll also need a permit to have the Guardian in public areas, Young-Soo continued. And immediate notification if any new abilities manifest. Progenitor technology is unpredictable. We need to know what we're dealing with. Do-hyun nodded. That seems fair. One more thing, Young-Soo said, his expression softening just slightly. I've been on this station a long time. I've seen a lot of strange things, but I've never seen anything like what you have here. Protect it. Protect each other, and if you ever need help understanding what this Guardian can do, call me. I have access to archives that might help. After Young-Soo and the security team left, the family sat together in the living area. Word spread through the station faster than Taman expected. By the end of the week, everyone seemed to know about the boy with the progenitor guardian. Some people were curious. Others were nervous. A few were jealous. Ji-hoon thought it was the coolest thing ever. Can I meet Biol? He asked every day at lunch. Please? I promise I'll be careful. Taman finally agreed, bringing Ji-hoon to his quarters after school. Ji-hoon's eyes went wide when he saw Biol, who was now almost as tall as Taman's waist when standing on all 4 legs. Wow, Ji-hoon breathed. The pictures don't do it justice. Those scales are amazing. Biol studied Ji-hoon carefully, then looked at Taman as if asking permission. Taman nodded. It's okay. Ji-hoon is my friend. Biol approached Ji-hoon slowly and sniffed his hand. After a moment, the Guardian made an approving chirp and let Ji-hoon pet their scales. This is incredible, Ji-hoon said, carefully touching the iridescent blue patterns. I read about progenitor guardians in history class. They were supposed to be the perfect protectors, bonded for life to people they chose. But I thought they were just stories. Everyone thought that, Taman said. But Biol is real, and the bond is real too. I can feel it sometimes like a connection in my mind. Other visitors were less welcome. Scientists from the Galactic Archive sent requests to study Biol. They wanted to do tests, take samples, understand how the Guardian's biology worked. Do-hyun politely refused them all. Biol is family, Do-hyun told them firmly. Not a research subject. But the attention was making their lives complicated. Taman could not go anywhere without people staring or asking questions. Some kids at school thought he was showing off. Teachers treated him differently. either with special care or obvious concern. The only place that felt normal was home, with his family and Biol. 3 weeks after bringing Biol home, Taman discovered new abilities in the bond. He was doing homework struggling with a complex math problem when he suddenly understood it. The answer appeared in his mind not as numbers but as spatial relationships, patterns that made perfect sense. He looked at Biol, who was lying nearby, glowing faintly. "Did you just help me with math?" Biol's eyes were half closed, but Taman felt a sense of amusement through the bond. Progenitor guardians were not just protectors. They were companions who enhanced their charge's abilities. If Taman struggled with something, Biol could offer a different way of thinking about it. "That's amazing," Taman said, "but I should probably still do my own homework, or I won't actually learn anything." The sense of amusement grew stronger, and Taman laughed. A month after adopting Biol, something happened that changed everything again. The station had a power problem. One of the main reactors was old and needed maintenance, but the work had been delayed for budget reasons. During dinner one evening, the lights flickered. Then they flickered again and an alarm started blaring. The station's emergency system spoke in all languages at once. "Critical reactor malfunction. All residents proceed to emergency shelters immediately." This is not a drill. Taman's family grabbed their emergency bags and ran toward the nearest shelter. The corridors were full of people, all rushing, many panicking. The lights flickered constantly and the station shook with small tremors. "Stay together," Do-hyun shouted over the noise, holding Hana's hand while Mirai kept close to Taman. Biol ran beside Taman, their scales beginning to glow with alarm. The Guardian could sense danger, and their instincts were screaming warnings. They were halfway to the shelter when something exploded above them. A section of the corridor ceiling tore open, and debris started falling. Metal panels, broken pipes, sparking wires, all of it crashing down toward the crowd. People screamed. Taman looked up and saw a massive panel falling directly toward his family. "No," he shouted. Biol moved faster than Taman had ever seen. The Guardian leaped forward and their scales erupted with light. The shield manifested instantly but different from before. It was not just around Taman. It expanded to cover his entire family and several other people nearby. The debris hit the shield and bounced off or slid to the sides. More pieces fell and the shield held steady, a dome of shimmering energy that kept everyone beneath it safe. Biol stood at the center, legs braced, eyes glowing bright purple, completely focused on maintaining the protection. The collapse lasted only seconds, but it felt like forever. When the debris finally stopped falling, Biol slowly lowered the shield. The Guardian was breathing hard, tired from the effort. "Is everyone okay?" Taman asked, looking around. His family was fine. So were the dozen other people who had been caught in the collapse. They all stared at Biol with expressions of shock and gratitude. "That creature saved us," a woman said, her voice shaking. "Thank you," an older man said, bowing to Biol in the traditional way of his species. "Thank you for protecting us." More debris shifted above them, threatening to fall. "We need to keep moving," Do-hyun said urgently. They ran the rest of the way to the shelter, Biol staying close to the family. When they finally reached safety, station security was waiting. Commander Young-soo was there, coordinating the emergency response. "Kim family," Young-soo said, spotting them. "I saw the security footage. Your Guardian saved a lot of lives today." "Biol was just protecting us," Taman said, his hand on the Guardian's head. "It's what Guardians do." "Perhaps," Young-soo said. "But the Council is going to want a full report. A creature with that much defensive power is going to make people nervous." Taman felt his stomach sink. "You're not going to take Biol away, are you?" "That's not my decision," Young-soo said, but his expression was sympathetic. "Stay here. I'll need to interview all of you once the emergency is over." The reactor was stabilized after 3 hours. The damage to the station was significant but not catastrophic. 14 people were injured, but no one died, partly because Biol had prevented the worst of one collapse. The next day, Taman and his family were called to meet with the station council. It was a group of representatives from different species who made important decisions about station policy. They met in a formal chamber that made Taman nervous. The council head, an elderly being with tentacles and wise eyes, spoke gently. "Young Taman, we are grateful for what your Guardian did yesterday. Many lives were saved." "Thank you," Taman said carefully. "But I feel like there's a but coming." The council head made a sound like a sigh. You are perceptive. Yes, there is concern. Your guardian demonstrated significant power. The shield covered nearly 50 meters and was strong enough to deflect heavy debris. This makes some council members worried. Worried about what? Hana asked. That Bial might protect people? That seems like a good thing. Worried about what happens if the guardian is threatened, another council member said. A reptilian being with sharp teeth. What if someone attacks the boy? What if the guardian's response is not proportional? We have no data on progenitor guardians. We don't know their limits. Bial would never hurt innocent people, Taman said firmly. You believe that, the reptilian said, but you are a child. You have bonded with this creature for only a month. How can you be certain of its nature? Mirai stood up. With respect, council members, my son has shown more wisdom about this guardian than any adult on this station. He saw worth where everyone else saw nothing. He recognized an ancient protector when experts dismissed it as defective. Perhaps we should trust his judgment. Emotional appeals are not policy, the reptilian said coldly. Then consider this, Doyun said, standing beside his wife. Historical records indicate that progenitor guardians who are separated from their bonded charges become unstable. The bond is not something that can be broken without severe consequences. If you try to take Bial from my son, you might create the exact danger you're trying to prevent. The council members talked among themselves in low voices. Finally, the council head spoke again. We propose a compromise. The guardian may remain with Taman, but with increased monitoring, weekly check-ins with security, a full evaluation by xenobiologists who specialize in ancient species, and the boy must attend training sessions to learn better control over his emotions and his connection to the guardian. That's fair, Taman said quickly, before anyone could argue. I'll do whatever training you want. Just don't take Bial away. The council head nodded slowly. You have courage, young human. Perhaps that is why the guardian chose you. Very well. This compromise is approved with review in 3 months. As they left the council chamber, Taman felt relieved but also worried. 3 months was not very long. He needed to prove that he and Bial could be trusted, that they were not a danger. Young-Soo was waiting outside the chamber. That went better than I expected, he admitted. Most councils would have ordered immediate separation. What changed their minds? Do-hyun asked. The security footage, Young-Soo said. After the reactor incident, I compiled every recording of the Guardian. I showed how Bial has never acted aggressively, only defensively. How the shield protects everyone nearby, not just the boy. How the Guardian's behavior is consistent with historical descriptions of progenitor protectors. I argued that Bial is exactly what the legends said. A perfect defender who values all life. Thank you, Taman said sincerely. Young-Soo's stern expression softened slightly. I have a granddaughter about your age. The green-scaled guardian was named solely by the girl who bonded with them. Her name was Yoonji, and she was 10 years old, shy and quiet like the guardian had been. She had lost her parents in an accident 2 years before and lived with her aunt on the station. When Yoonji met Soli, something clicked, just like it had with Taman and Bial. I've always felt alone, Yoonji told Taman during their second meeting. Her voice was soft, barely above a whisper. Even with my aunt who loves me, I felt like something was missing. But when I touched Soli, I felt complete. Taman understood exactly what she meant. The bond was not just protection or companionship. It was recognition, a deep connection between two beings who needed each other. With 2 guardians discovered, people started searching more carefully through storage facilities, auction houses, and old collections. Within a month, 3 more guardians were found on the station. Within 2 months, news reached other stations and planets, and reports of forgotten progenitor guardians came from across the sector. Most were in terrible condition, scared and sad from being misunderstood and mistreated. But when they found the right person, the transformation was beautiful. Each guardian had unique colors and abilities. Some could create shields like Bial. Others could heal injuries. One could communicate emotions to large groups, calming panic during emergencies. But not every guardian found their person quickly, and that was where problems started. A wealthy collector on the station bought 3 guardians as investments, planning to sell them to the highest bidder. He did not care about bonding or purpose, he just saw valuable progenitor artifacts. The guardians stayed in small containers in his storage unit, getting sadder every day. Taman heard about this from Ji-hoon, whose older brother worked in the commercial district. He felt sick imagining those guardians suffering like Baal had suffered. "We have to do something," Taman said to his family during dinner. "What can we do?" Do-hyun asked. "He bought them legally. We can't just take them." "But it's wrong," Hana said, supporting her brother. "Those guardians need proper care and bonding, not storage containers." Mirai was quiet for a moment, thinking. What if we created a sanctuary? A place where guardians could stay safely until they find their bonded person. We could get funding from the council, maybe donations from people who care. "A guardian sanctuary," Taman said, the idea growing in his mind. "We could have people who understand guardians helping them, keeping them safe, introducing them to potential bonds." The idea took root quickly. Mirai used her diplomatic connections to present the proposal to the station council. Do-hyun contacted research institutions that might provide funding. Hana started a social media campaign that went viral across the sector. Pictures and stories of guardians finding their people, happy endings that made people care. Jihoon helped too, using his technical skills to create a database where people could register as potential guardian bonds. The database asked questions about personality, values, and life circumstances to help match guardians with compatible people. Even Commander Young-soo contributed, providing station security support and helping navigate legal requirements. The sanctuary opened 3 months after Baol and Taman's council hearing. It was a large space in the station's community level, with comfortable rooms for guardians and areas where they could meet potential bonds safely. The woman who had found Soli donated money to help. The collector who had hoarded guardians was pressured by public opinion to surrender them to the sanctuary. Taemin and Yoonji became regular volunteers, using their experience to help new guardians adjust and to teach potential bonds what to expect. The first successful match at the sanctuary was between a guardian with silver scales and an elderly human man named Kwang-sik. Kwang-sik had been a station engineer for 40 years, quiet and steady, always helping others but never asking for help himself. He came to the sanctuary just to look, not expecting anything. The silver guardian, whose collar read "Protector of the Tired, Guardian of Those Who Serve," walked directly to Kwang-sik and sat at his feet, looking up with knowing eyes. "I think this one sees you," Taemin said gently. Kwang-sik knelt down with difficulty, his old knees creaking. He touched the guardian's scales and his eyes filled with tears. "I've been alone for so long," he whispered. "My wife died 10 years ago. My children live on other worlds. I thought I would finish my years in loneliness." The guardian made a soft sound and leaned into his touch. The bond formed right there, and everyone watching felt the rightness of it. "You're not alone anymore," Taemin said, smiling. Over the following months, more matches happened. A guardian bonded with a station teacher who protected children every day. Another bonded with a medical officer who saved lives. One bonded with a young mechanic who fixed broken things with patient care. Taemin started noticing patterns. Guardians did not choose people who were powerful or famous. They chose people who had specific qualities: compassion, courage, loyalty, wisdom, the ability to see worth in overlooked things. The progenitors had valued these traits above all others, and their guardians continued that tradition. But perhaps the most surprising match was still to come. A guardian arrived at the sanctuary unlike any they had seen before. This one was larger than the others, with black scales edged in gold. The collar read "Guardian of Understanding, Bridge Between Worlds." But this guardian was in worse condition than any before. Starved, injured, traumatized by years of abuse, the guardian would not let anyone close. They hid in the darkest corner, growling at anyone who approached. Even Biol could not reach them. The other guardians tried to help, but the black guardian was too hurt, too scared. After 2 weeks, Taemin was worried they might lose the guardian entirely. They were not eating enough, and their scales were dulling despite all care efforts. Then Commander Young-soo came to visit. He had come to inspect the sanctuary's security measures, but he stopped when he saw the black guardian. Something in his stern expression changed. "That one is suffering," Young-soo said quietly. "Yes," Taemin agreed. "We don't know how to help." Young-soo walked toward the guardian's room slowly. Taemin wanted to warn him to be careful, but something stopped him. The commander moved with absolute calm, no fear, no pity, just steady presence. He sat on the floor outside the guardian's space, not trying to enter, not trying to touch. He just sat there silent and patient. An hour passed then too. Young-Soo did not move except to breathe. Finally, the Black Guardian lifted their head and looked at him. They studied the commander for a long time, and Young-Soo looked back, steady and honest. "I understand suffering," Young-Soo said in Korean, his voice low. "I've seen things I cannot forget. I've made decisions that haunt me. I know what it's like to carry pain that won't heal." The Guardian took one step forward, then another. "But I also know that pain doesn't have to be carried alone," Young-Soo continued. "That understanding can bridge even the darkest gaps. That sometimes the most wounded among us can offer the most profound protection, because we know what suffering looks like." The Black Guardian reached the bars that separated them from Young-Soo. They pressed their face against the metal, and the commander carefully reached through to touch their scales. The bond formed with such intensity that everyone in the sanctuary felt it. The Black Guardian's scales began to glow, and for the first time since arriving, they made a sound that was not pain or fear. It was recognition. Taemin watched tears run down Commander Young-Soo's face as the Guardian climbed into his lap, curling up like they had finally found home. "I did not know I needed this," Young-Soo said, his voice breaking. "I did not know anything could understand." "That's what Guardians do," Yoonji said softly. "They find the people who need them most." After that, the sanctuary became more than just a place to house Guardians. It became a community. Bonded pairs came regularly to socialize and support each other. They shared knowledge about Guardian abilities and bonding experiences. They helped new pairs adjust and offered advice. Taemin realized they were rebuilding something ancient. The progenitors had created a civilization based on bonds between protectors and the protected, on mutual understanding and care. That civilization had disappeared millions of years ago, but the Guardians remembered. They had waited through eons of darkness for a chance to revive what was lost. And humans, with their strange capacity to see value in the forgotten and rejected, were helping bring it back. 6 months after opening the sanctuary, Taemin stood in the main hall with Biol beside him, watching as a new Guardian met a potential bond. The woman was nervous and the Guardian was cautious, but there was interest on both sides. Taemin smiled, knowing this might be the beginning of another beautiful partnership. Hana joined him, her own Guardian, a pink-scaled one who had bonded with her 3 months ago, following close behind. "Do you ever think about how weird this is?" she asked. 6 months ago, you were just a kid trying to save one scared creature. Now look at this place." Taemin looked around the sanctuary. There were 30 Guardians here now, with more being discovered every week. 20 had already bonded and gone home with their people. The others were healing, growing stronger, waiting for their perfect match. "It's not weird," Taemin said. "It's right." The progenitors understood something important, that protection and connection